Then he rented warehouses, bought the warehouses. Then he built a plant, and he started selling wine and spirits from the plant. And he
Wow.
built up a national business. He could never beat his biggest competitor. So he bought them 20 years later in 1911. And, I just learned so much, from my father, who grew up my father was third generation. And,
Wow.
and his mother was active in the business and worked retail from 1909 to 1985 when she passed. And so I learned from these people. And then you would say to me, well, what happened during Prohibition? And I have to wait for you to swallow your coffee. And
Yeah.
you would have said, oh, you must have been out of business or you guys were bootlegging. We never bootlegged. We were open for 14 and a half years because my great-grandfather realized that churches and synagogues needed wine and spirits for sacramental purposes. So he got a license from the
Oh,
federal government to stay
to
open.
stay open for the.
And what he did was created different denominational salespeople. So for the churches, for the Catholic churches, he had Catholic salesmen. For the temples and synagogues, he had Jewish salesmen.
Jewish.
And his biggest customer was the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And also the federal government. They sold to the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, everybody
Oh,
for all their sacramental needs.
that must have been. I mean, how many licenses like that were issued? That had to be one of the
Very few. There were
very few.
very few. But needless to say, the key is that, and my great grandfather taught my father when the Depression hit. The other thing I learned is that don't kick people when they're down. What my great grandfather did, and he had a lot of real estate that he had accumulated, and he went to every tenant, whether it was a commercial building or a home. And he went with the superintendent and told them, I want you to take care of the homes. I want your home. I want you to take care of your commercial building. You don't have to pay me any rent. All I want you to do is to take care of the building. And if you don't have the money to take care of a plumbing leak or a heating issue, call us and we'll take care of it. We'll pay for it. And all of his friends told him he was crazy.
Yeah.
And at the end of the Depression, guess whose real estate was worth more than anyone else's?
Yeah, the ones that had upkeep.
So all of the product, all the homes that we had, all the commercial buildings that my great-grandfather had in his portfolio, along with my uncle, my great-uncle, my grandmother, my father, they were worth more money. But not only that, they had taken care, of all those people. And as a result, all of those tenants took care of the buildings.
Yes.
And whereas other buildings that were vacant had squatters who didn't take care of the home, they destroyed the homes, destroyed the commercial buildings. None of these buildings were affected. So again, it was another lesson to me to be responsible and don't kick people when they're down. Always help people get up. Always help people that are in need, and do your very, very best. And the old adage, but for the grace of God, there go I.
Yes.
And in business, as I've grown in business, as you know, real estate has cycles. And in my profession, I've been able to excel, fortunately, but I've done well in downturns, and I've experienced downturns. And it all goes back to treating people fairly and according to your agreements, and when you can bend, you want to bend.
Yeah, I love that story. That if you turn people into squatters, which your family could have done, right? They could have put the pressure on for rent, and then you turn them into squatters, and then they act like a squatter, right? They end up tearing the place up and treating it poorly. But if you treat them, like you said, with that dignity and humanity and say, hey, just let's get through this together. You take care of the house, or if you can't call, I mean, that's just such a great message to people that I could see them doing even more work for the house, right? They'd even actually do, if they had any extra money, they'd make an improvement, right? They probably did everything they could to keep the house nice.
Yeah. So I mean, it's my foundation was a lot different.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget another thing that I my father taught me. He had a change in business course in one of the directions. We had three different uh, types of products that we were uh, distilling, rectifying, and also creating the wine as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, they chose to stop manufacturing in one of the areas, and where he could replace other jobs in the other two companies. What he was able to do is do that. Where he couldn't, he went out and found jobs for 100% of all the other people. He called his competitors and got them all jobs.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, there was Willie, and I was lucky to they let me sweep in the plant.
Okay.
I couldn't do a lot of other things, but I met Willie. Was the nicest African American. He was 6'2". He was built like Jim Brown, the old fullback
Yeah.
for the Cleveland Browns. Just the nicest guy in the world. And I didn't understand. He couldn't read or write. And my father would spend time with him and try to help him. But in addition to that, he helped Willie get a job for more money than he was paying him by taking him directly to the competitor, and knowing that the competitor had a need for Willie's abilities.
Yeah.
He got him a better job than he had left with my father.
So fun, right? Great like what a great memory.
And it's all about helping. I mean, I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of coaching today, as I always have. I'm not, all I'm looking for is that I can help someone, grow their platform, have a better understanding of business, have a better understanding of human nature.
Very interesting. That Willie story is so